the seagulls. Follow the shore. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the buzz and they left the buzz in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, good evening everybody, how we doing? Welcome back on board the bus. It's a Thursday, buses came a wee bit early today. It's 8 o'clock rather than 9 and we're live on YouTube, but it can only mean one thing. It's of course the Thursday night forum. The most fun time of the week. We give you guys the keys because your points, questions, opinions are what's going to dictate the journey we go on. So, without further ado, it's another heavyweight lineup we've got for you. Up in that top corner is a face that needs no introduction. He's the glue that holds the bus together. And he's our part-time riddler and questionnaire, and of course the font of all knowledge. It's Mr. Phil McGinley. How are you, brother?
I'm absolutely fine, mate. Glad to be on tonight. I've watched your hosting debut last week. Very, very good. So I'm excited to be on, Stevo, with you in the driving seat. Give my voice a rest ahead of tomorrow because, you know, it's Bustalgia tomorrow night. A good tour show coming up there. So get a wee break from hosting tonight on the old T.N.F.
Deserved so, mate. And there's another guy. He's a stalwart, and he's the main man when people listen when he talks, and it is, of course, the judge. How are you, Mark? You all right, mate?
Well, you went from the glue to the glue sniffer, mate, so thanks for that. I'm doing very well. How are you doing, Stevo?
Strong opinions, mate. I wouldn't go that far. Always a pleasure. And, of course, there's another fan favourite of the bus. Canada's favourite, Tim. Liam, how are you? You all right, my friend?
Good, mate. Good. I've been accused of a lot worse than glue, Mark. Don't worry about it.
I am almost good to have you on, mate. How are you?
Really good, thanks. Yeah, lovely to be on here. This is my warm-up for tomorrow with Phil. Bustalgia. Well, so, 2 days in a trot. Looking forward to it.
Got to strap yourself in. I'm sure what Phil will tell us at the end what he's got in store, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Well, anyways, we say before we crack on, we'll get a wee bit of housekeeping to do as we always do because it's time, of course, to do what we call all that good stuff. Of course, you're watching us on YouTube, and if you haven't already, take 2 seconds to flip over, give us a subscribe. That way you'll get notifications every time that we go live. Be sure to thumbs up the video, and if you're feeling a wee bit mental, you can share the video. Just helps us get the traction down as well. Of course, everything that we do here is completely free, but if you want to become a Boise Bus member. And of course, there is many of you out there. It costs a mere $1.99. You can, guys like Ryan Taylor, Scott Howe, Scott Cameron, Craig A, Jim Dolan. There is more. $1.99, and all that does is helps us keep running the bus, because these things don't cost free, even though our content does. So check us out on other formats. So you're on YouTube. You can get us on Acast, which is now our official media partner. And also you can get us on the usual places. We're back on the likes of Spotify as well, okay? Twitter, we've now got our official Boise Bus Twitter channel. Make sure you follow that. That'll give you all the updates. And of course, as I've said before, all our personal handles are on there. If listening to our shite, Out With The Bus is your thing. And
Yes,
there's one more. We'll get the Pie Sports up there in the top corner. That is our tasty sponsor as well. Get your body over to piesports.com, place your order, and at the very end, make sure you fire in Bus 1888 to get a tasty 12.5% off. You can't say fairer than that. Well, that's the housekeeping out the way. We'll crack on, but we want to go your questions. Make sure you get your questions in. It was a wee bit like pulling teeth last week. Get all those points and questions in. I'm sure you've got plenty you want to put to the guys, and we'll get them up as quick as we can. But there is a few things that have been happening recently that we can discuss, and we'll just touch on them, I think, to start with. The first is, of course, another victory for Celtic and a Glasgow derby. Maybe not as important as you'd say some of them, but entertainment nonetheless, because of course the youth team were victorious last night. Then you guys watch that yourself, Phil?
I never got a chance to see it at all, man. I never watched it, never saw the highlights. I saw the score though, and I went, oh my God, missed a treat here. I kind of feel guilty. I didn't watch it, but I 6-5 in the end to the good guys.
Heavy scoring game, aye.
Defending went out the window there. I think some of the lads at the back have got a wee bit to learn before they make it to the professional division, but I'm sure it was a spectacle to watch anyway, and it's another trophy under Celtic's name. So yeah, fair play to the young lads, but 6-5 against them must have been an absolute thriller to play in.
It was a heavy score game, and I see Mr. Law and Ange was there. There's a photo that's been doing the rounds of the two of them having a laugh. I'd love to know what they're laughing out there. Are they laughing saying, "Look how shite this is," or are they laughing at thinking that's the beat again? Who knows? What about yourself, Mark? Did you take the time to take in the youngins?
Well, I watched the first half, and then the second half I was recording Judgment Day with David, so I missed it, but I managed to catch a wee bit of the extra time, and you're absolutely right. These young boys are just learning how to play the game professionally now. They're at the stage now where they're getting serious, so it's a long process for them, maybe 2-3 years to learn the basics at that level anyway. And it was two keepers that couldn't save a ball and two defences that didn't know how to defend. But what do you expect when you're playing at that level, you know what I mean? And these young boys are probably back to school on Monday or whatever it is, so good on them. Celtic won, that's all that matters. It's just one more dagger in the hearts of that vile mob across the city, and just one more nail in their coffin, mate. And Peter Lawwell, you mentioned that picture. I saw that picture myself, and it turns my grey hair even more grey. I've seen that man with a Celtic tie on, but hopefully he was just giving Ange a lift because he was getting a wee bit of hospitality. That's my hope, but you never know, because it's Peter Lawwell, and we all know with Peter Lawwell, he's got 12 fingers and they're all in different pies, and it's all Celtic related.
And yourself, Liam, I spoke to you there briefly before we came on, and it seems that you watched it. It was very much a score that when Ange first came, everybody was making a suggestion that we were going to be seeing score lines like that, but there's a wee bit more to us than that. But what did you think? What did you take on the young lads? An enjoyable game for yourself?
Aye, I started watching it just a bit through it. My Vancouver WhatsApp group started buzzing about it, saying, "Hey, this is it was like 2-2 or 3-2 at the time. It game, by the way, just end to end. So started watching it. Yeah, a couple of things I really enjoyed. I thought that last goal was just absolutely wild. You know, he went back and it slowly went into the net, and it was like, you know, it looked like it was boys trying to be gallus and showing off, and you know, so the defence went out the window. It's just like, all right, we'll just try and outscore them. And that seemed to be the game plan, and it seemed to have worked. Other takeaways was I absolutely loved it, with the no fans there, the isolation, all the Celtic young boys, all the wee guys in the Celtic just celebrating every goal, just absolute limbs and madness every time they shot air to that part of the crowd. And then the other thing, the referee. My God, I mean, was it, actually looked like a competent referee that made a big call and got it right. That changed the game, I guess, in a bit, but it was the right call to make. A guy diving in the 85th minute. When do you see Premier League referees have the bravery to do that? I don't know. Maybe it's a way of fast tracking some of these guys as well. That if they've got potential, just like you see an 18-year-old or something, there might be young referees out there as well that could be fast tracked into Scottish football if they show more promise than the diddies we're getting right now.
I thought the Gremlins' first goal was offside, or at least their second goal was. To be honest with you, it looked like it was about a yard offside. And the takeaway for me, just quickly, was Jane Lewis referring to the Rangers team being full of superstars. And I actually had to rewind it about 4 times, because I was thinking she meant to say, like, I don't know, super glue. I don't know. I just kept on rewinding it because I thought there's no way she said that with a straight face. And it's been a long time since I've seen competence at any level. In fact, just quickly on that, just before we move on, I mean, the SFA decided to shut the Celtic and Rangers fans out of that game last night, and the only people that were there were like family and youth team players. And again, Scottish football suffocating itself. I don't see what the harm was in 500 to 1,000 fans turn up last night. What's the risk and what's the safety issue there? It's just another thing that the SFA and the police get wrong in this country, and they can be trusted to do a lot of things in this free city of ours. But one thing we're not trusted in is to behave yourself when it comes to attending football matches. And it's a sad indictment of this country. But when you wear a Celtic tap to a game or a scarf, you lose a lot of your civil rights, mate, and that's something we all need to get used to.
Aye, I mean, it's a bit of a sad sight, isn't it? It's a big occasion for these young guys to be playing at a national stadium and a cup final, and there's going to be limited numbers, I suppose, if tickets were there. But it's a missed opportunity, is it not? But as you say, is that a sort of club thing? Is it a police thing? Is it an SFA thing? Who knows?
I can tell you what it is.
It's a sad indictment, is it not, that we can't have fans in at a youth final? Yeah.
Do you remember, it was a few years ago, they played the youth final at Firhill, Partick Thistle's ground, and there was some crowd trouble. I want to say it was maybe in the Brendan Rodgers era, so that's a good 5-6 years ago, maybe even it was further back than that. But I think it stems back to that game, and ever since then, the youth games like that, they've locked fans out. Now, this game was at Hampden last night, a much bigger stadium than Partick Thistle Stadium, so you could space it out a lot better and keep them away from each other. But I do remember there was an incident at Firhill a few years ago between the Celtic and Rangers youth team, where like the Green Brigade and the Union Bears turned up at both sets, and it turned into a bit.
It was the highest crowd. Thistle won the league that season. It was the highest crowd at the stadium that season. Was that match? That was actually caused by the police and the stewards knew that match was a sellout for like 2 or 3 days, and they still insisted in hiring the smallest number of stewards and the smallest number of police to attend that. No, the police's fault, but I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons for that. But I think when your Rangers are in the second division or something at that time, Phil, I think it was that long ago. I think it was even Roy Dyer's time. There was a lot of tension there. There was a lot of appetite just to see a Rangers jersey and just to see a Celtic jersey.
Right, okay.
I think that's when it's been. But I actually think there was a game at Celtic Park 3-4 years ago when Rangers fans wrecked the seats. It was a cup final it was held at Celtic Park, and Rangers fans wrecked the seats. Maybe that's something to do with it. But as you said, at Hampden Park on a Wednesday night, pushing a rain or whatever, what's going to happen? 30 guys in a dog's house show up, but at least give fans the opportunity and let these players play in front of as big a crowd as possible, whatever it might have been.
Of course.
No, I think, there was another point in there that Liam was making. It was an opportunity to see some young guys, and, are they going to be a wee bit off the sort of stepping stones into the first team? Probably so. But the refereeing, by all accounts of what I saw, the game flowed pretty well without real, any issues. And even saw a Rangers player getting sent off for diving. So is there a promise? Is there promise in these younger or lower level referees to feed
No.
them in and try
That'll
and
be his last game.
Eh?
That'll be the guy's last game. I can assure you, his trajectory will be hindered by that. You can't send off Rangers players, mate, and get away with it. I'm afraid it just didn't come unpunished.
Listen, that's why it's the Scottish game never going to go forward. If we're not going to give budding referees a chance because they're scared because they sent somebody off. But listen, there's a few other things. But before we crack on, I want to bring this up here, okay? This is from Ryan Gallagher. We don't normally do shout-outs, but I think this is very worthwhile bringing here. He wants to have a word for his mother, who's ill with cancer, and she does watch and wants to brighten up her day. Ryan, I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody on the bus, both ourselves and those that are viewing, that says wishing your mother all the best and keep the good fight going and hoping that you can pull through this. You take care of yourself. God bless, and sending it of your way. But back to the other affairs, and there's a few things that have come out because it's season ticket renewal. I'm sure that Mark and Phil, you've got that email probably about 6 times over now. You'll be getting a letter through the door. And generally it seems that the club are maybe doing all right. A wee needless increase. It's roughly 3%, I think. So depending on where you sit, you could be anywhere between, £15 up to 30 odd on top of your ticket. So what does that mean for numbers? Well, it's roughly going about anywhere up to £1.5 million money straight in the club's pocket without a ball even being kicked. You take into account record revenue coming in. We've got an Asian tour coming up, which is going to be a big money spinner, I'd imagine. And then we're on the verge of a treble and everything that goes with that. And of course, Champions League. So, get into our questions. We know what that means. Money should mean investment. Is it going to translate to investment as we look towards the Champions League and wanting to improve on it? And to that end, there's a question that was put up, and I'll go straight in with it. I came up on the Judgment Day, and I saw that you said bank that, so I did, and it came via San Fran Celtic, which is saying, name 3 starting players who won't cut it in the Champions League, and if we're going to improve, should be replaced in the summer. That's a bold one. So I want to go straight down to Liam on that. Liam, we want to improve in Europe, do we not? Do we need to replace guys already in the squad?
Can all 3 be Greg Taylor?
Come on.
I definitely have Taylor now. I think we need a left back that can defend. You know, he proved when he was left 1-on-1 with Motherwell boy. Just twisted and turned him inside out. Can he defend? You know, did physical. I'd like to see like a mirror image of what we have with Taylor and Ralston and Johnson. You know, I don't think we have that on the other side, and I think that lets us down. That's a wee bit of an imbalance. I'd like to see what we can improve on in Joe Hart. I know that's a big ask. It's a big if. I think he's a big personality, but if he's still in the squad, I think he's mature enough and all that, and such a leader that he can still find his role in that and be that person as well. But we might get somebody in goal that's a bit better, again, better shot stopper, somebody that can save a penalty, because, you know, VR and all that, we're getting more and more penalties against us than ever before. So I want somebody that's got a good record for like being tactically aware at penalties. Good, you know, like understands players' signals, how they're moving, and then has the athleticism, you know, to get to the ball. And then I still think we need I don't know. I think we could either do another striker, or do we try and find somebody better than Callum McGregor? And I know that's huge. He's beating his soul.
Ready now, you'll be in trouble.
But what if somebody pops up is like, will that ever become the deficiency in the park? Or is that the heart that we can't replace? So I mean, that's always one, because, you know, if like a Pirlo type player comes up or something, you know, and that would just make so much sense, or comes in and just completely outperforms them, you know, is that an option as well? Because, you know, sometimes I still think in Europe, especially, we get overrun in the midfield, you know, and he doesn't perform maybe as well, but again, I can be proved wrong. He's been injured the last couple, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. What about yourself, Mark? I think I know where this one's maybe going to go for you, but who would replace in that squad, mate?
I said my say on it last night. I said it's a dirty question for Sam Fran. I'm going to get him back because as Liam just said, I mean, nobody speaks more eloquently of Celtic than Liam doing there, and he found it hard not to be controversial there, and he even mentioned Callum McGregor, and he's absolutely spot on. If somebody does come up better, then we have to look at replacing any player. But even as much as I love Liam, I think Greg Taylor is a good defender, but I see his point. If he sees flaws in his game, then in his mind he wants to replace him. That's up to him. I didn't mention him myself because I thought if you're going to replace one fullback, it will have to be him out of the two of them. But I had my say on that. I'm in enough trouble just now. I'll pass on to Phil, mate, if you can, but I'll just echo your words on Linda. Good luck with your fight on that, Linda. I'm sure everything will be fine, and enjoy the show, and I hope there's another many more shows for you to watch, pal.
Aye. Oh, absolutely. Echo that sentiment that we says, all the best for you. We're just happy that you're taking the time to sit and listen to us talk shit about Celtic, so greatly appreciative of that. Yep. But Phil, on this squad rotation, there's Stubbs' horses trying to roll that grenade in there. Barkis for heart. Who are you changing, mate? You think, is it a case of we need to improve what's on the bench, or is there still room to take one or two straight out of the starting 11?
Well, as Mark said, the question's a bit of a dirty question. The way it's worded as starters, so we need to take that into consideration here. Now, first of all, Barkas for Hart, given that Celtic apparently are asking for, I believe, 4.4 million for Barkas, right? He might actually be within our squad next year because I don't know who will be paying that. Hopefully somebody does, because I just can't see a comeback for Barkas. Now, he was loaned out for a reason, to try and get him that move, to put him in the shop window. Hopefully he's had a good enough season out in Holland that somebody does come along. However, Joe Hart, I would say, if we're going to go with starters, I think we can get better than Joe Hart. This is a name that comes up a lot. I always say about does he keep the ball out the net? Well, yeah, he does. And most people say that's a goalkeeper's first job. But obviously, Ange wants a little bit more from his goalkeeper. And he's all about playing out from the back, starting the attacks. And that's where Joe Hart falls down. We literally lost a goal last season in the Champions League because of that against Leipzig, where despite looking up and seeing Greg Taylor with two Leipzig players either side of him, he still opted to try and ping that ball out to Greg Taylor, and 10 seconds later the ball was in the net. This was right after the VAR goal that was disallowed. So we had a massive egg on our face for that one. We could have pinged it out to the right, or he could have just get the ball long. There's no options here. Try and relieve a bit of pressure, because we just got away with one with the ball basically get the VAR goal getting disallowed. So I think if we can get a better goalkeeper that, one, obviously can keep the ball at the net, I suppose, and be good with his feet, that's what Ange is looking for. Is that goalkeeper out there something we're going to find right away? I'd like to think that Ange has got options out there, again, with his scouting network that he's got, different connections and so forth. There has to be somebody that ticks those boxes. I've said before about Joe Hart, I feel he was a stopgap signing when we brought him in, who's actually turned out to be really, really good in the end. I mean, he's done 2 years with us now. Obviously got one more year on his contract. But I think we can look at, bringing in another goalkeeper that can at least push him, because Siegrist clearly wasn't that answer. We found out pretty quickly. And just didn't really fancy Siegrist at all. Greg Taylor's a good shout with what Liam said there. When we talk about Europe, then that is going to be the big one. I mean, if Kevin Van Veen could have turned him the way he did the other day, then you've got to think, well, if he's left one-on-one against a Real Madrid player, an AC Milan player in that position, is he going to cope well with it? Don't think so.
That's rare though, Phil, isn't it? That's the first goal we've lost. What I will say is, I mentioned it last night in the show, I think he's been carrying an injury for about a third of this season, mate, and I think he actually went off that game injured as well. He might know of, but he's been getting off quite a lot, and that Van Veen goal, it was spun in circles. But what I will say is, if you're talking about fullbacks letting us down, the Rangers game where there was folk going up in arms about how good Arthur Johnson was. He gave away a goal against Morelos, which shouldn't have got chopped off. He was nowhere for Tavernier's goal, and he got chopped off. And in the game before that, he gave away the free kick that led to a Rangers goal that was needless. So these are the moments that nobody picks up on, because he's the man for Canada and we all love him. If Greg Taylor did that, I think Greg Taylor would not get man in the match against Rangers, I can assure you. with the exact same performance. I love Alistair Johnson. I've already stated that I think this guy is a Champions League quality player, so there's no doubt in my mind about that, or anybody's mind about it. I just think that the goal we lost the other day there, listen, I've seen clips of Virgil van Dijk getting spun in circles.
Yeah.
It happens. And I don't think, I've not seen many games where Greg Taylor's gave a guy 10, 15 yards of space. I just haven't seen it, mate. I think he's a decent defender. His positional awareness is pretty good. And his discipline off the ball, I think, is very good. But it's each to their own. And I don't think he's as big of a problem as what some people think. But then again, I think Starfelt's a problem, and some folk don't believe that either. So it's all about opinions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the defence, listen, we've flogged that horse constantly. It's something that there's no doubt. I think we've got a good foundation at this moment in time. The signs look promising. As you say, Starfelt, take him as you find him, but can't deny that he's formed a solid partnership, and it'd be good to see that get into Champions League. Yeah. Speaking about our Canadian, Liam, we'll go over to you as the resident Canadian. Alistair Johnson, we're looking at a couple of weeks out, but a chance that he's going to make this cup final. What's your thoughts on that? Is that going to be a major loss for us, or if we got the resilience in reserve and the likes, if we can perhaps utilise a Kobayashi or even a return for Ralston? What's your thoughts on that between now and the end of the season?
Well, I think it gives Ralston a really good opportunity to show what he's done. I mean, until Ralston got injured, I mean, I thought he was playing absolutely brilliant with us. When we talk about the progression of Greg Taylor and players like that, you can't talk about that without talking about Ralston as well. I don't see why Ralston's always so easily cast aside. And Mark's points with you, I agree with as well. You're talking about the deficiencies in Johnson's game. I see that as well. There's a couple of times as well where I see him ball watching when the ball is ricocheting about in their 6-yard line. He's got to pick up on that really quick. There's times where he watched Morelos take a swing at the ball. He could have had every chance to put his leg in front of that as well before CCV got booted. But anyway, I think it's a good chance for Tony Ralston to take his place in the team, see what he can do, see if he can hit that form where he's contributing in a powerful way. And that's what I like about between him and Johnson and that wing back row is I like the power that they supply. I like the fact that we got a bit of grip with those two in the team as well. You can't say that with Taylor in the team. And right now, we're coming up against hammer throwers. That first 5 minutes against Rangers in the fog looked like something out of Game of Thrones. There was players and troglodytes, running in for everywhere, booting Kyogo, and I thought it was going to be a serious injury because you could see what you could see through the fog. Like it was running about there trying to absolutely injure people because cameras wouldn't pick up or might get away with something, So anyway, I like a bit of steel in the team at the back, and I like that's what Ralston. I think he'll continue with that. And then I think the boys always got a goal in them. That one that he scored supposedly on, it was like day after his granddad died or something like that. Was it an absolute screamer, and then the VAR called it offside, and I don't think it was offside.
No,
the Hearts game of the 4-3, that one. Aye.
Yeah, I want to see what he can do. Yeah, so I'm sort of excited to see what teams we throw out there now, knowing that this is basically done and dusted. Okay, so who have been holding back? Who do we need to have a good look at now? And we can all get a chance to look at it, but more in a relaxed way, where we can actually assess them without any stress in that.
Yeah. Well, we've said that, there's a chance of looking at guys, as we've said time and time again, it's a balancing act between giving guys minutes because they deserve it and giving guys minutes because you want to just try them out or, give them a wee bit of experience. But yourself, Phil, you're going there week in, week out to Parkhead. You've seen the variations of players and positions. Between now and the end of the season, would you look for or hope for changing our approach to games? We've played about with the idea of changing formations. A back three's been mentioned, and two up front, dare I say, it's also been mentioned. So what would you like to see between now and the end of the season? Do you think the status quo remains and it's about chasing these records and staying resilient? Or do we try and mix it up?
Me personally, when it comes to the records and stuff like that, I'm not too bothered. I know there's a lot of fans that are, and I don't know. I guess Ange, he's talked about goal scoring record stuff, so I guess to him he'll find it important. So I would expect that when it comes to changes, I don't see him fielding anything radical. I think there'll be a couple of guys who get thrown in here and there, just like sort of guys that are on the periphery of the first team, just to get them a bit of fitness in the legs. They could play themselves into the cup final, saying that on Monday. It's a big thing for these guys. If they get a chance now, they've got to take it. I think against Hearts, I think against Rangers, it will be the absolute strongest team. Then maybe with St Mirren, where I think by then, the league's definitely officially won. We'll probably, maybe bring in 3 or different starters or something just to mix it up a wee bit. But I wouldn't see a massive change in the style of play, like going to like 3 at the back or 2 up front. I think he'll still stick with the same formation, just a couple of mere changes in personnel. I don't see him going, too crazy about it. To say the guy himself has said that he wants to try and get the goal scoring record. So obviously the records are important to him to a degree. But see, me personally, I would like to see a couple of like fringe players just to get a wee game, because what's the harm in it? At the end of the day, if Celtic are thinking about moving some of these guys on, it gets them in the shop window as well. If they could put in a few forms, there's a few guys in the team where they're like, well, we want to try and move them on in the summer, but try and maximise what you'll get for them as well. If you give them a wee run at the end of the season, then you might end up adding a wee bit of value to them. And, well, we know that the Celtic chairman at the moment, non-executive chairman, certainly likes a bit of value, as we talked about earlier on. So, anything to get an extra 0 in the end of a price would be fantastic for him. But we'll see. But overall, I don't expect to look at a team sheet against St Mirren in a few weeks and see 11 different names from the usual. I don't expect a small change here and there.
Yeah. It's all about that dollar, as you say, when it comes to law. I'm sure he's looking for a wee cheeky bonus to upgrade his heated driveway, but, maybe that's where we're getting the guys coming in. But I want to bring that up because I've not had a chance, really, Mark, to properly speak to yourself since the game against Rangers. And Brown's talking about, obviously, the next game against Hearts is the big one because that's going to push it over the line. But we've got to have one eye on that game against Rangers because so far this season we've went unbeaten. And as we said before, maybe the fashion of the results that have came against them have not been as dominant as we'd perhaps like, winning dirty perhaps. But what do you think going into that game? Brown's sort of saying here that we'll think we'll need to change the shape with them because they've been getting maybe a wee bit close to us, maybe not creating a lot of chances, but certainly made it a wee bit more nip and tuck than we would have liked. What's your thoughts for that game? Is that one that we've got to just make sure we do what we're doing? Or would you try something new against them? Do you think we need to mix it up against them?
No, I think the approach will be about stifling Celtic, mate. That's what he's performed pretty well. Beale was a manager against Celtic. He actually has made them harder to beat. That's one thing nobody can deny. He's made the games a bit more tougher. He's getting closer to us and he's making it more tougher. With the players he's got, he can only do with the very best. He knows deep down the players he's got aren't a match for Celtic. So he'll be very passive aggressive and his approach will be to stifle us. It sounds like a bit like a cliche, but it's all about the Celtic day and all about the Celtic personnel available. We will probably see Ralston and Kobayashi play. So for me, that's the maximum amount of changes I want to see in the team because when you start adding 1 or 2 more, it becomes a bit disjointed, mate. And there's not so much you can tinker with a winning team. And plus, let's be honest, the players aren't going to get a massive break during the pre-season. I think the cup final is the 3rd of June. I think we're back at the end of July. Maybe Ryan Phil will probably correct me there.
I'd say I would know if it'd be the end of July, but definitely sometime within July we'll have a pre-season training camp. I would say.
Aye. No, I meant sorry, like a first. I think the season starting. I mean, it'll be as quick as that.
The season.
So I don't think there's a need to rest players at the beginning of the 5 games, but see if you can get the 2 games out of the way, as you said, Steve. We'll get the more important games out of the way. I can assure you, in my mind, when that game kicks off at Ibrox, it'll be just as important as what the cup final was in my mind because it's still Rangers. In my own mind, it's Ibrox. It's still so. Believe you me, I'd be jumping about mental if we win, and I'd be a bit gutted if we lose. But then a bit of reflection will tell you that it's probably only a 1.5 on a really good season. But so I think that the players who need a bit more time, like your Kyogos, things like that, I think you might start to see them getting a wee bit of a break and a wee holiday after the Rangers game, and then put back in again for the Champions Day parade, which so it should be. The players that have won it should be out there to celebrate it with the fans. And I just on Brown's point, I think, as I said, it'll be Rangers will be set up to stifle Celtic, and that approach isn't a bad thing, because when they've stifled Celtic, they've won large areas of the match, large spells in the match where they've begun to get aggressive and get at Celtic, and but for a couple of bad finishes and a couple of poor decision making, they could have got results against us. But on the flip side, a bit better finishing for Celtic, it could have been 4 or 5 on some games. So it's a wee bit of juggling act. I think Celtic will play the way Celtic do. Celtic are the champions, we're the best team in the country. Every team we play will have a game plan to be as passive aggressive and as controlling as possible, with the understanding that Celtic will be one that will probably be dictating the large parts of the game, and probably the most important moments in the game will come for a Celtic jersey, and they'll be reactive rather than proactive on that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think, as a San Fran saying, a bounce game player of the youth, I don't think we're ever going to be taking any of the games between now and the end of the season quite as lightly as that. But I've seen that before. But now, listen, we're here to win, we're here to do what we do, and we're certainly want to continue to lay down our marker. We're coming up to a game at the weekend, obviously. The only coronation that matters is the coronation of the champions-elect, Celtic. And we're having to go up to the Edinburgh version of Rangers, shall we say. Yep. And a topic of discussion is how little fans are going to be in a position to sit there and take in, which hopefully is going to be the coronation of another Celtic championship. But with these fans and away, I sort of want to wrap the two in, because I want to take the allocation of that game and then also think about the allocation that's going to be coming up for this final that we've got. And Stubbsy's Horse is asking a point here, saying about should the SFA impose on teams that if they can't sell out their own tickets, that they should be forced to give them to away support. It's been some time again. How many did Inverness and Falkirk turn up to for a semi-final? I think it was under 15,000 there. They're going to ask the question, aren't they? I was told that Inverness was going to empty out for this cup final, and everybody was going to be there with their dog and their gran and everybody else in between. So, realistically, what's your thoughts, Liam, on these away allocations? Are these teams, the likes of Hearts, are they cutting their nose off to spite their face because they don't want to see a party? And if they're going to be playing that kind of hardball, or, as I say, looking at Inverness, who are our opponents, if they can't be bothered turning up, should they be getting an equal crack at the whip for tickets? Are Celtic getting punished basically for our success?
Aye, more or less. I don't understand the economics of Scottish football. I don't see how an empty stadium will turn people away. People want to buy tickets regardless who they support. So you can have an empty stadium and then cry about the disparity and the wealth between the teams and all that. We make our football available for all our fans in every way we possibly can, and and because our football's attractive, we also come from a big market, and we're a hereditary team as well. We're passed on from father to son, mother to daughter, and that, and so but they've also talk about that same sort of, lineage and that as well. I talk to guys, I've supported Dundee all my life and all that, or Kilmarnock, but they never ever want to sell tickets. They don't seem, to capture the imagination of the public in that way. And I think that's part of it, by playing in empty stadiums that you can't afford to fix and have crap turf and, and that sort of thing. So I think Scottish football's always shooting itself in the foot. Again, talking about that empty stadium yesterday, same thing. I mean, over here, like in Canada and America, that just would be unheard of. It no sense economically whatsoever. And it is, I think, so then it's become that let's punish the Celtic thing. We flinging the toys at the pram, basically. It's weird.
Yeah. No, that's just, it's Scottish football seems to be dwindling. I also seen another favourite that we like to wind up and slag on the bus. Mr. Martindale's coming out and crying poverty that his team are only selling 100 season tickets so far at Livingston. That's sort of reflective of the state of Scottish football. But come back to what I was saying there about these sort of teams and, demanding tickets when it suits them and denying, potentially a full stadium. Come, for example, the game at Sunday. What's your thoughts on the general state of play with the sort of fan allocations for away games and finals? Yourself, Mark, as a season ticket holder, you'll be one of these guys that are wanting to get your name down for a ticket. What's your thoughts here with the likes of teams like Inverness? Have they got a right to come away with this kind of patter, or are they just playing a game?
I think the Celtic, being the bigger club, obviously should get the bigger allocation, and the more the merrier, because it gives Celtic fans who go week in, week out a chance to get a ticket. But I do see the flip side. Like there's teams like Inverness, Cali. Like Inverness probably have got a maximum kind of fan base they can bring in, maybe 3,000. I mean, somebody mentioned empty in the city. That probably is 10,000. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know how big Inverness is. It's a wee blip on the map in Scotland, and I do feel for these wee teams because Celtic Park against Good Morton, you'll get 21,000, but if it was against Hearts, you're getting 50,000. So you get folk that do turn up to the bigger games, even at Celtic, you know what I mean? And Rangers too. I do think that these teams should get the opportunity to sell like 10,000. Definitely, if they only sell 6,000, they should be sold back to Celtic. And Hampden has been doing that. I mean, even a final couple of years ago, we ended up getting another 5,000 after Aberdeen, believe it or not, which I couldn't believe because there was one club in Scotland that should be selling it 20,000. Aberdeen's one of them, but they didn't. Probably thought they're playing against Celtic with the chances. But no, I get your point, Stevo. I mean, and you're absolutely spot on. I mean, you have got to look at Scottish football on a whole and say, let's not suffocate ourselves. There's fans want to buy tickets, sell their tickets at a premium, get rid of them. Let's get this stadium full up. But we like to suffocate ourselves. So we'd rather have, like, for talking sake, Tynecastle. We've won it twice at Tynecastle in the last 5-6 seasons. I remember Kazim Richards scored, and then another time Roberts scored and Sinclair got a hat-trick. And there was a decent fan base there compared to the New Zealand Cup back even more. And it's just indicative of this country that you're watching stadiums that are lying empty, and there's ways of fixing it. Pricing is one thing, but the most obvious one for me is don't lock out fans who want to come in. I don't know a restaurant or a cinema or a bowling alley that tells paying customers you can't get in.
Yep.
Why is Scottish football so hell bent on killing itself? Chairman fight me or chairman. You mentioned Martindale there. He said that he's sold me a season tickets and I've got packets of crisps in my cupboard. He sold less than 100 season tickets. And you think to yourself, is it the pricing? Does the home fans know what to see that plastic pitch, Stevo? There's more to it than just it. I just feel like Scottish football is like somebody with diabetes that sits with a packet of Mars bars. They just can't help themselves. They're part of the problem. And Scottish football will never evolve until they get somebody like a Barry Hearn or somebody like that, and who's able to grow exponentially this monster of a sport. Because in Scotland, you've got probably a population in maybe 3/4 of the sporting people will watch football. That renders that sport itself massive. But we've got governments and authorities and SFAs that'll do everything in their power to push the fans down to a level where they're becoming disillusioned with it. And that just is just systemic through everything and every level of football in Scottish football in Scotland. And you summed it up, mate. Tynecastle will probably go their way. Hearts will probably go their way to no sell tickets to Celtic fans. And do you know what? There'll probably be 5,000 empty seats in that stadium because folks will want to see Celtic.
We know.
Exactly, mate. Fucking sell them, Stevo. Sell them, mate.
We know this time and time again, and it's something I'm going to bring up to a point here that I want to discuss, and I'll certainly get around to you, Liam, because you've been very big on how we should market ourselves as Scottish football and also Celtic as a club. But we're talking about Scottish football shooting itself in the foot. So the big one that's came here is the traditional 3 o'clock showpiece final end of season. It's been moved to 5:30. So are we shooting ourselves in the foot once again, Phil? What do you think here? Is this us bowing down because there's a big game down south between the two Manchester teams? Are we just rolling over and getting our belly tickled? Or should we say that? I believe, I don't really listen to much the guy says, but for my sins, I listened to Mr. Bartley on the Super Scoreboard, and he says, if you're a Scottish football fan, you want to watch a Scottish game, will you not? Are we shooting ourselves in the foot once again by just rolling over and doing a game that should be on terrestrial TV? So I'm really struggling to see what the benefits for the TV companies or whatever are to move this. What's your thoughts on that? Is it just another own goal by the Scottish Football Authorities, or is it maybe doing those Inverness fans a favour? Getting down here?
I would say that it's definitely benefited Inverness fans, because there was talk they were going to move it to a lunchtime kickoff originally. I was like, that's absolutely madness, given Inverness fans have got to travel down. But 3 o'clock would have been fine to stick with. This is such a bizarre reasoning, because it clashes the English FA Cup final. It's happened in the past before. Realistically, the Celtic and Inverness fans really care about watching Man U and Man City? Not massively. We're in a world as well where everything's Sky Plus, you can watch things on demand. Most people would just, if they were wanting to watch it that bad and they were going to the Celtic Inverness Cup final, they would just Sky Plus it and just watch it later or something. But it seems like the FA Cup, the English FA Cup for the last couple of years has been moved to ITV and BBC are both covering it on terrestrial telly. And I think the final itself is on ITV and BBC to give people a choice. And the Scottish Cup final is on Viaplay and BBC. So BBC, though, has BBC Two and BBC Scotland as its own channels. What's the big deal? But apparently it's on BBC One, the Scottish Cup final and the FA Cup final on BBC One as well. And it's just like, you've got other channels. Just put us on BBC Two, BBC Scotland. Who cares? Because most Scottish fans, you're right, will probably watch the Scottish Cup final, even though that lot across the city won't want to admit it. There'll be many of them watching in the hope that we blow it. There'll be that curiosity from them that they will tune in, even though they'll go, I'm not watching that. They'll be watching. So most Scottish football fans will not be tuned in to the FA Cup final. They'll watch your final. It just seems mad that they're just prioritising for England. And to be fair, it just doesn't even surprise me. Now, again, we're just talking about Scottish football shooting itself in the foot. Nobody destroys its own game more than Scotland. No. And that's just another one to add to the list.
Time and time again. As I say, Liam, this is something that you've always been big on, the marketing side of things and how we can project our game for the good. Try to get more eyes on it, try and make it more appealing. But surely that starts with your own self-worth, does it not? I'm pretty sure this 5:30 kick-off will maybe benefit you over there, of course, but take away you're getting a decent time to watch the game. What's your thoughts on it? Is it just another foul example of us being poor and not having the courage or conviction to say we've got a good product, this is what it's going to be, we're going head-to-head against your Man City, Man United derby, stick it up your arse? What's your thoughts on that, mate?
I don't know. I can see the size. I can see why they would want to change it and that, because you are going up against a giant. And it's not like, so it depends how much value that market is to you of getting the Scottish viewer and how much it is to the advertisers, right? So going head-to-head against Manchester United, Man City, chances I'd be watching both games at the same time anyway, as a lot of us would be. Everybody's on more than one screen now at a time. So, marketers know that as well. And if there's any chance that becomes like a real shit game and, ours becomes exciting, sometimes you can love viewers for the other place as well. If they see there's a buzz of it showing up on social media and like how I ended up watching the youth game last night. If it's good and it's a compelling game, but that all becomes your product. And right now our product is so bad. The camera work, in Scottish television. I don't know how many times I've had to watch a guy putting on, taking off a tracksuit while you can hear the crowd going ballistic because something's happening on the park, or we're zooming in to see, some coach's face or something like that, and in an ultra close up, or the fourth official and that, and so it just needs to get better all around, and then we should talk about competing. But it does need an overhaul. It looks very bush league, Even Celtic TV cutting off as soon as the game's done. As a supporters club, it's the only chance you get to meet each other. And as people drive and get ferries and all that sort of stuff, and then boom, if Celtic would even extend their coverage a bit more, talk about, just have a more analysis of the game, like what we do, I'd like to see that. I mean, maybe we should talk to Celtic and see if they want to jump on, Terry and Russell and post-match pish, and we could stream that for the people abroad, because, I know I'd certainly enjoy watching that in the club with all my pals,
Aye.
We do. Anyway, we just stream Boise.
No, as you say, there's this argument that the 5:30 change and stuff's going to get more eyes on it. As I say, that may well be true. It just seems a bit disappointing. And I'll be totally honest, I'll be mortal by the time 5:30 comes round, so I've got my own worries. I'll be, probably end up watching that English game that I've no great interest in, but it's on before our game. I'm actually going to try and get a ticket, hopefully, Inverness, they're not going to be selling anything. I'll be chucking some back in there. Stevo's got some good money, mate, and if you can get a ticket, make your dream happen. You know what I mean? I sure will be going for it. But just with that, with the cup final, you two guys as season ticket holders, you'll be maybe able to enlighten us. What's the process for you guys? Is it an application ballot, or?
Well, you need to. There's a certain date in the season before the season starts. You have to sign up to the home cup ticket scheme.
Yep.
Doesn't cost you a penny. The Rangers charge £50 for it, but you can laugh about that later on. Yours is free, but what that does, that means automatically they just debit your account for money for any home matches that Celtic attend, Champions League, European qualifiers and knockout stages ties. I came out to it maybe 3 years ago, because I never get a cup final ticket. There was like maybe 30,000 tickets and there was like 35,000 on the thing. I thought, it's still a lot. So the worst thing I did was commit it. It's cost me a few tickets. I've still managed to get more or less every final and semi-final tickets anyway. I've only missed maybe one or two, but I don't think I'm going to get some for hospitality for this, I think. So I will get to go, I think. But the problem with me not being in it is it's not giving me a chance. At least Phil's name's in the raffle. Him and his dad are in the raffle, so he might get a chance at a ticket. In fact, he's got probably 50-50.
I'll get one, because see the semi-final against Rangers, because that was balloted. That was a balloted one. If you've got a ticket for that, you're a shoe-in now for the final, because all the people that got a ballot there, plus the extra that we're going to get now for the space that is left from the Inverness fans that can't fill part of the stadium. So there's going to be a lot of people who missed out on the Rangers semi-final ballot might now be in if they're on the home cup ticket scheme and they went to the St Mirren and Greenock Morton games at home. The Hearts game, obviously, we played at Tynecastle. You're not guaranteed a ticket because that's an away game. But if you were at the two games, you're on the home cup ticket scheme and you didn't get the Rangers semi-final, there's a good chance you'll get a final ticket now, because we're going to need to fill out basically what Inverness don't fill out. Yep. But my experience being on a home cup ticket scheme for years is if we've got a semi-final against Rangers, which went to a ballot, and you got a ticket in that ballot, you are a shoe-in now final, because the team you're always going to be playing in the final is going to take a much smaller allocation than them. So, yeah, I should be quids in now to get one, because I never got one for the semi-final last year against Rangers. So it feels like somebody suggested to me a few years ago that since Brendan Rodgers' era, where the home cup ticket scheme numbers went way up, they kind of divided it into a sort of 50-50 thing, where if you're at, like, say, the League Cup final, when the Scottish Cup final rolls around and it's balloted, you won't be in that ballot. And then the next time, so they kind of rotate it a wee bit to try and give people an equal chance. But then there's also super fans out there that seem to always get a ticket. When you go on Twitter, you'll see that they're always, I got a ticket in the ballot.
It's not a raffle when 3/4 is rigged, Phil. It's not a raffle, really. The raffle's only for likes of yourself and me who don't wear enough khaki, or don't stand in the right sections, mate, or I mean, I find it astonishing, and it's like almost Jesus-like luck that they members of certain parts of the stadium, no matter what game it is, always get a ticket. I mean, what a raffle that is. I mean, what's that going to be? 10 billion to one or something and counting. They must be really lucky. I wish I was next to them in the queue buying my lottery ticket, because I wouldn't be working for a living. Just shows you that some people are lucky and some people are me.
Well, from a game with a 50-50 chance or a stick-on chance, I'm pretty sure we must look ahead to the most important game, let's face it, of the season so far, is the champions-elect roll up to Tynecastle. And I'm pretty sure the limited numbers that we've got, some of those khaki-wearing folk that you speak of, Mark, are certainly going to have their tickets stamped and punched and ready to go to create maybe an atmosphere in an empty stadium. Looking towards that game, as we say, it is the big one. It's the only coronation that matters, because it's going to be Ange that's going to be crowned again with the rest of the guys. Big game coming up, some forced changes. Are you hoping for something? Well, I say, are we hoping? Of course we're hoping for something a wee bit more enjoyable, a wee bit more true to a form that we've become somewhat acquainted to. It's going to be a early rise, I'm assuming, for yourself, Liam. What's your thoughts looking ahead towards to the weekend? Are we going to get over the line? What are you looking for, Faze? Is anyone going to do it, or we want to do it in a bit of style in a particular stadium that can be difficult to go? We know that Hearts always turn up, and you spoke about some hatchet men and hammer throwers at the weekend. We're going to be getting more of the same, are we not?
I think we're definitely in for that. But I think if the way Ange motivates his team, everything that he says in his pre-match, he's not taking the foot off the pedal now. I think he wants to get it done as soon as he can. Don't want to give them any hope, that they can prolong it from us, if we falter to Hearts. So I think we come out with our strong team and do what we try and do with Hearts. We get them early, they collapse. Every time we've come out, and I'd love to see Hatate score another one of the long-range efforts. Remember the one that Gordon got?
Oh, a Thunder Bastard, I believe it's called.
Thunder
Is that right, Phil?
That's it, Thunder Bastard.
I don't think I've seen a ball being hit that fast in my life. I remember that. Wow.
I'd like to see one of them in the weekend, and I'd like to see them winning it there, because I want to see us go to Ibrox and them gain as a guard of honour. Because that now puts...
You must be on something to black glue back out the market.
You imagine what they'll be like. Clapping us in there.
You're drunk, by the way. You're drunk. There's no chance of that happening.
Well, the right thing to do.
There's the right thing to do, and then there's the thing that they won't do, because we all know that they're not very one for putting praise on us. They can't even put their Stitcher name onto their top for a game, or the players won't even mention their names. But we're not talking about them, we're talking about the Diet Rangers. Mark, the weekend, talk to me, mate.
Well, I'm got the Kedale Suite to watch it at Celtic Park, so I'm going there.
That's very civilised.
Well, not really, mate. It'll be people like doing all sorts of illicit things in the toilet and all the rest of it, and taking substances and getting mad with it. I'm pretty sure that happens at these places. No, it was something the day in big matches. I'm doing it for the Rangers game as well at Ibrox. It's only 15 quid, mate, but they sold out in 5 minutes. So if I watch it on the big screen, it's going to be probably Liam McGrandles will probably play after it. So it'll be a good day. Hopefully we win the title there. I've seen us win the title there before. I think there's no better place to watch it if you can be at a game than Celtic Park, mate. So I thought, why not go there? And I'm looking forward to it, because I'm quite excited to see how Kobayashi copes as well, because he played pretty well at Tynecastle the last time, and I'm quite excited about this boy. I feel like he might just have that wee bit of next level composure on the ball that we're looking for, and also his timing in attack was really good, and I quite like the sound of this boy, and we might see the best of him at a tough place next week and at Ibrox. And also, as Liam says, I'm Tony Ralston's biggest fan, so the more game time for that boy, the better, and hope that he enjoys his day along with the rest of the players in Celtic, win the championship that they deserve more than any other team in Europe this year.
Absolutely. Well, the last word's going to go to our good old Phil there. Looking forward to the weekend, as Mark's touched on, as Liam's touched on. There's going to be some forced changes, obviously. But what an opportunity for these guys to step up in a hostile environment and be the ones that get us over the line. What's your thoughts on the game going ahead? Is anyone will do?
Oh,
or
well.
a wee bit of cherry on top?
Oh, well, I find it quite appropriate that the fixtures have fallen, because yesterday was Albert Kidd Day, and if you know that from your Celtic history, you know the significance there, where Celtic pipped the Jam Tarts to the title on the last day when Dundee striker Albert Kidd scored. So that was the 3rd of May, was the anniversary of that. So it's quite appropriate that we're playing the Jam Tarts for a chance to seal the title. So I fully expect us to go in and get the job done. I know Tynecastle can be a horrible place to go, and there is that sort of intimidating atmosphere. But the cup game we had against them a couple of months ago, again, when the draw came out, there was that whole cynical side for a lot of fans. Oh, they get a home game against the low league team, we get sent to Tynecastle, typical. But I think Ange and the team relish these type of things. The harder, the better. They just turned up at Tynecastle that day and scalped them 3-0. It was like Hearts were drowning after like 10 minutes in that game. They didn't know what to do. We just stormed them, and I just feel with what's on the line, and they know that they can get it wrapped up, I can see us going there and just putting on a similar performance and just get it all wrapped up. So, it's I can only see a Celtic victory, and then we'll see what happens next week. Guard of Honour, I don't think they're going to be doing that. Chance. But I think with the pressure off next week as well, I think that just plays into our hands again, because I will just cruise it again. So it's all good at the moment, and I can only see a Celtic victory on Sunday and champions Sunday night. Can't you wait for that?
Absolutely, looking forward to it. I'm expecting a win. Let's do it in style. If we can't win it at home, then we're going to win it away. We're going to win it the hard way, and as we say, hopefully it's a return to the form that we're used to, and that'll pick us up and give us more confidence as we go over to Ibrox the following week. But before we finish up, there's a show on tomorrow. Of course it is. Phil McGinley's back with his Bustalgia magical bus tour. Come back to the past. What have you got for us? With yourself and Liam, am I right in saying?
Myself and Liam will definitely be there. Russell usually joins the Friday night. I'll see if he's available and whatnot. But I'll hopefully get a few people on this one, because I think it's a bit of a fun one. I've already put the link up for it so people have seen it. But it's basically the how can I put it in a polite way? I'm going to need to use your dung hammer.
Yep. In the script.
Yes, they flattered to deceive is the title of this one. We're players that came in maybe for big money, or maybe they just had a big reputation. We're going to be looking at some of the notorious signings down the years, what went wrong. It's not just going to be a case we're going to slag them off for 2 hours. We're going to look at some and go, were we too quick to judge some of them? Was there like a player in there? I mean, we've seen some players that came, didn't do too well at Celtic, moved on and, had a good run at another team, and you're like, maybe we could have got something there. Or maybe they were just a big pile of Raphael shite in the end. We'll have a wee look at that. But that's the plan tomorrow night, the flattered to deceive episode, where we're going to look at some, let's say, dung hammer. We'll get
I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about there. You're missing a trick. That's right up Mark's street. I'm sure he'd have some entertaining, fun and scathing words to say on some of that nonsense that was on the screen there.
The door's open, Mark. If you want to come on tomorrow night, mate, you're more than welcome, mate.
Oh, I doubt tomorrow night I'll be in a position to be speaking to the internet, mate. I think I'll be saying words that could probably get me to jail, minimum.
Fair dues.
He does it every single week without fail. I'm looking forward to it, mate. I'm sure you'll have plenty of good thoughts on some of that nonsense that get put up on the screen there, eh? Well, that is tomorrow, of course, usual time, 9 o'clock, and it's going to be a cracker. Make sure that you tune in there and give Liam and Phil the support again once more. That's us done for another week. Guys, thanks for taking the time out your day to come and talk Celtic again with us, and thanks to all you guys down there for your points and your comments, and of course following us. If you haven't done it already, just as I say, before you go, make sure you like and subscribe, because something came to my attention. Obviously now that we've been in with Acast, we're getting a wee bit more analytics and we get a bit more information to us, and it turns out that only 36% of people that are watching are actually subscribed. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of nonsense and we hate pushing it, but if you're watching, subscribe.
Yeah.
Help us all out. It just gets this bus further reaching, gets us out there, and it's all good. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again sometime soon.
Good night,
care.
Guys.
See you on the other side, guys.
Cheers.
Cheerio.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.